9:25 is our time right now, and the new Netflix movie To the Bone tells the story of a woman struggling with anorexia. But critics say, just like 13 Reasons Why before it glamorizes the subject instead of highlighting the horrors of it. This morning, we're going to sit down with one of those critics for a closer look and make sure parents are prepared before their teenagers watch it. It is being called the new 13 Reasons Why. Netflix's new movie, To the Bone, is facing harsh criticism over its portrayal of eating disorders. Many are calling it irresponsible, saying the nearly 2.5-minute trailer should have a trigger warning and finish with support sources. Here's a short clip.
That's not breakfast. Neither is coffee.
You do a lot of sit-ups. I'm not going to treat you if you aren't interested in living.
Good speech. I've got it under control. Isn't it funny? Piece of cake. I've got it under control. I've got it under control. You okay, honey? I just got up too fast.
The movie stars
welcome to our
28-year-old actress Lily Collins, who has been open about her battle with anorexia. Many critics say it could be dangerous for Collins to actually take on this role. Could probably even risk a relapse. Collins promised that her weight loss for the film was, quote, safe. Many professionals say that's really not possible. Our next guest is one of the movie's critics who authored a recent column for the Huffington Post sharing her concerns. So joining us this morning to talk about the dangers of eating disorders, the road to recovery, and the danger that this new film poses is Jennifer Rollin, who holds a master's in social work and is a licensed certified social worker. And then alongside her is Amanda Tarleton, who has overcome her own struggles with anorexia. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for coming in. And you know, when you first see this trailer and you watch it on the outset, some people might just say, this is great. It's bringing attention to a real problem, and, you know, maybe it could help start a discussion. But you're saying there's so much more to it.
Yeah, and so while I'm happy that this trailer might be prompting a discussion, I think it's incredibly concerning to see these eating disorder behaviors depicted on film. So we see in the trailer somebody with emaciation, we see a close-up visual of her spine, we see her drinking coffee as breakfast, and so while these things alone are not going to cause an eating disorder, for somebody with the underlying genetic predisposition to develop one of these illnesses, this could be the environmental stressor that triggers their illness to develop.
So you mean by watching this show, it could actually have them start doing these behaviors because they want to be like that person? Or is there this side where, well, you might actually have it, I don't look like that, so my problem really isn't that bad?
Yeah, so I think it's twofold. First, one big concern is that this could serve as a how-to manual and glamorize eating disorders, again, for people with the underlying genetics, because it is a brain-based illness. The second piece is that it highlights a young, emaciated Caucasian female. And so while certainly there are people with eating disorders who look like that, eating disorders don't discriminate. You know, they impact people of all races, genders, weights, and body types. So a fear is that people would view this trailer and think, I'm not sick enough, which again is a common eating disorder thought, comparing yourself to other people and saying, well, I don't look emaciated, I didn't faint, you know, I'm in my 40s, I can't have an eating disorder, and then causing them to not get help.
The one thing that I found interesting was in talking about the star of the show, and maybe Amanda, you can comment on this, because, you know, she said she had anorexia, and so she's recovering from it, and so for this role, she lost weight in a, quote, healthy way.
Right.
Your reaction to that?
I think, you know, as someone who has had an eating disorder and recovered, that there really is no, like, healthy way to lose weight after an eating disorder. It's really difficult, even, like, for me, and I know a lot of girls who have gone through it, to do things like eat clean or, like, work out a lot. Like, even those, like, little things can be triggering. So I think, like, trying to lose weight is definitely... there is no, like, healthy weight, because it automatically triggers that in your brain.
My question is, because I have someone very close to me in my life that battles this, is are you ever really recovered in the past tense, or are you always recovering? Because I know for the person close to me, it's something that she battles every day, and she constantly has to work at it.
Yeah, and so I believe that full recovery is possible, and that's what I see. Again, you know, that can look different for everyone, and that could be a long journey, which often is not linear. So people might have steps forward in recovery, they might have steps back. But I do believe that and I see this with clients, that you can find full freedom from this with access to treatment and support.
So how better should they have done this show, in both of your opinions?
So it's hard because I think it's really difficult to make a movie about eating disorders without glamorizing it. And while I think that the director and the actress had great intentions, I think that showing any of these triggering images, so they should have stayed away from calorie counts, they should have stayed away from extreme thinness, and I think maybe really focusing on the recovery aspect and highlighting less of the symptoms and the illness. Because again, we know that for people with that genetic predisposition, seeing some of these images can quickly become a how-to manual that can trigger their eating disorder.
But can it also help someone? Because that is a real part of it. That is a real part of the story and how the disease works in some people's lives.
Yeah, and so I work on this with clients. Life isn't black and white, right? So things aren't all good or all bad. And so I think that there's definitely some positives of this film in that I'm on TV talking about this. You know, it's starting a conversation, and I've had more people reach out to help in the past, couple weeks, and I think it was inspired by my Huffington Post article. And I also worry, honestly, about my clients, about young minds that are being formed and shaped, and how viewing this film could really glamorize, again, what is the deadliest mental illness.
So what would your suggestion be to a young person that wants to watch this show? Should they watch it with their parents? What should they talk about before or after?
I think that watching it with their parents would be a good idea, and if you can relate to any of the behaviors, or if it triggers any negative thoughts in your mind, I think reaching out to your parents or talking to someone to express that this is a concern and realize just because Lily Collins, who's a gorgeous actress, is going through this doesn't mean that it's something glamorous or something to aspire to. It's something that needs help.
What was the thing that finally got you help?
To be honest, I was one of those girls who was I'm not sick enough. And it really was my parents saying, you are sick enough. And I never saw it. So that is another reason why I think this is so dangerous, because that is such a major problem for girls with eating disorders.
And what about you? What is your advice to parents or to people that may want to go ahead and watch this show? Because it's going to be out there.
Yeah, I think for parents, really having an open dialogue with kids, saying, how does this show make you feel? Is it triggering any thoughts or behaviors? And then for the person, being really mindful of what their triggers are. And if you're even questioning that, I would err on the side of extreme caution.
Well, I thank you both for your advice and your insight to something that's very important. To the Bone does debut on Netflix this Friday. 9:39 is our time right now. We'll be right back.